Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted Entrepreneur Podcast. I just want to make sure to say that a second time. The Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted Entrepreneurial Podcast, because sometimes my co-host miss that. My name is Jeff Harrison, and my co-host?
Leslie Spohr.
Yeah.
The great and powerful Oz.
The great and powerful Oz. There we go. Yeah, she's been doing some tripping. I don't mean that kind of tripping. I mean, she's been doing some trips for her birthday. She went to Magic Castle, which was on her bucket list. And it's interesting. I ask you out there, I don't really have a bucket list, I guess. You know,
how do you not have a bucket list?
I don't. Even when I used to play golf professionally, I didn't have this, I got to play this golf course. It was like, I didn't really have that bucket list. I don't know why. Maybe that could change my whole outcome in my future life if I said, hey, before I go, I want to make sure to do these things. But, I'm in the mindset, I'm going to live forever. So,
well, we're all in that mindset, but guess what? We're on the last quarter, I think.
Well, I think our life extension escape velocity is getting closer and closer. I think if we can make it another 3 or 4 years, Leslie, we're going to be able to add productive years to our life for every year we're alive. That's medicine. That's just my thing. That's a whole nother podcast, a whole nother conversation.
My kids would be mad at me if I do that.
Yeah.
But I decide I'm going to stay around forever to annoy them, but they think I'm going to go at some point.
Yeah, but the whole thing about a bucket list, maybe I need to put on my bucket list to make a bucket list.
I'm going to put that on there for you as your coach. For January 1st week, I want to see a bucket list of something, anything.
Oh, geez. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I guess because, growing up poor and living in a chicken coop, is one of those things that was real easy to get excited over the little stuff that you're just grateful for having, a roof over your head. So maybe I need to raise the roof a little bit. I don't know. I
grew up poor too. It doesn't limit you in what you can see. I've got to see a lot of the things that I wanted to see and do. I saw the Northern Lights. I got to go to Club 33 at Disneyland, which is extremely difficult to get into. I did the Magic Castle, which is also difficult. I was in the Sistine Chapel, which is really awesome. I got to go to Pompeii, which everybody should go to. Went on a safari. I mean, I've done a lot. I've been very blessed to be able to travel as much as we have, mostly because I'm very frugal about how I do travel. Like we use points for everything and or air miles, so that we don't have to invest a lot of cash to do it. But when we go somewhere, we absolutely maximize our what we get to see and do while we're there. We always come home more tired. Tireder, is that a word? More tired.
More tired. I think it depends. If you've seen the show Landman, have you seen?
I love Landman. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I tell people because a lot of times I say, hey, if a kid from West Texas can figure it out, and they don't know where West Texas is, and so I'll say, you've seen Landman? They'll say, yeah. I said, that's West Texas. That's where I grew up. And it's a tough environment, and you smell oil all the time.
Did you see this week's episode?
Well, I watched episode 2 of season 2.
No, this is 4.
Yeah, so I was on vacation. I didn't watch TV.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
I got to tell you, it's so good.
So it was last night was good, but anyway, hey, we're not here to talk about bucket lists. We're not here to talk about the Landman.
Yeah, we are. Why not?
But it's a whole different program. But what we are going to do is, in our last episode, if you missed that, we're talking about systems. And the reason we're talking about systems, Leslie, is because overwhelm, it can sometimes be part of a business owner's day-to-day. And you can usually see it, like as an example, in between filming, because we usually film a couple of episodes at a time. I was checking my email, and not because I was overwhelmed, because somebody that I saw was on there. And in his email, it was obvious that he was overwhelmed, because there was like this list of reasons why he couldn't do what I inviting him to do. And it just made it really drove home the point of like, wow, if you have systems in place, you can go to Magic Castle, you can go to, Cabo for a week and come back and, all hell hasn't broken loose. So it's kind of fun. So in our last episode, we talked about real simple stuff. Hey, setting up a system that starts at the very beginning of the year. And if you haven't done it, you can do it starting today to make sure your taxes are done properly. And we're not tax accountants. It's just one of those things. Hey, this is what's life. So if you didn't see that, go back and watch it. Today, which is fun, I was real creative with the title. We're going to call it Systems Slay Overwhelm Part 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I just want to throw this out. Do you happen to have an idea of what the last episode was called?
So, let me say, System Slay Overwhelm.
Part one. Yeah, part one. That's right. So, I want to talk about because we talked about taxes. There's this part of our business we call operational, the operations side of our business, and that's how busy Leslie is. She's just tired, bored. We got to get her going with something. She's yawning.
I need some coffee. I don't drink coffee, but I need some coffee.
Yeah. So when it comes to this, we're talking about operations. First of all, Leslie, take a second and help those listeners or viewers understand what operations are when you're talking about a business.
Operations are how you run your business, right? So the mechanics of running your business is generally called operations. When I worked in aerospace, operations was planning, quality, inventory management, and the shop floor where the people built the products that we were shipping, right? The shop floor, and then shipping and receiving also. So those were the operations. And then the other part of that is management, or I guess you'd call it management, which was no, purchasing was part of operations as well. So the purchase of materials. So you have people like engineering and project managers who are in sales and marketing and design. That's different. But the operations is how you run the business, how you get things done. And that's the heart of us as small business owners is operations. We don't really have design. You could have a design company and I could help you with that. But what we're talking about today are service-based industries, primarily, or gig economy, if you will. That's kind of what we're into, right, Jeff? Mm-hmm. Hey, your name went away again.
Oh, darn it.
You know me, I'm a stickler for the details.
Jeez, I've got a system, but it failed.
I thought you turned the timer off.
It's a new banner. Just so you know, on our system we have that we do our live streams on or our recording on, they've just updated this. So now the banners that you see on the screen right now, system of operation, it now can be set on a timer, so it'll come on and off. And this one, it defaults to 10 seconds, and I didn't realize it because it was a new title I put up. So anyway, you're talking about systems for operations.
Yeah, having systems for your operations, which is how you're going to do business. And part of the thought process and how you do business is, how do I control the quality? My thing won't move. How do you control the quality and the continuity and the integrity of your business going forward? And how do you keep track of the data? That is really important. In this day and age, everything is data. So even in my lifestyle management company, separate from Concierge Business Solutions, I tell my employees that they're data managers more than they are the concierge stuff, because we do take care of things for people all the time, but they're managing the data, schedules, arrivals and departures, tasks, all the to-do lists for all these clients, the projects we're quoting for those clients and whether they're scheduled or not, and are they approved or not, and did we complete them or not, and then did we get the invoice for it? So there's a lot of data that you manage in a business. And that's true in any kind of business. Now, we track time, but even if you're in retail and you're selling widgets, right, you still have to have inventory. You have to have somebody who buys that inventory and know what the market trends are for that product line that you're selling. Where was I over when I was in Hollywood? I can't remember where we were, but I remember saying to Dan, Can you imagine being the buyer for this? Because there were so many different items. I think it was at the
Mm,
farmer's market, and we were in a world type of grocery store. They had
mm,
products from all over the world, and it's like 20 different kinds of vinegars, and all these oils, and all these seasonings, and all these different things. It was really awesome. And I thought, God, can you? Oh, I know what it was. It was one of the souvenir shops. They had, some of them are enormous, and I think, can you imagine being the buyer for this and having to keep track of it? Or a restaurant. I couldn't even imagine how to calculate how much food to buy to keep things from spoiling. You know what I
mm.
mean? So and that's part of operations, is how do you manage your inventory? How do you manage your time collection? How do you manage the data? Always the data. That is so critical. And the more we use AI in business, the more data there's going to be to track. So it's really critical that you have systems for your operations.
Well, we think about this. I'm just typing this up. It's basically, from what I'm hearing, it's kind of like operations is the fundamentals to your business. And I remember way back when I took a break from being a golf professional and I was in sales. And I remember when I sold something, that was an exciting moment. It was like one of my early sales, and I took it to the next phase. And I immediately found out that I didn't understand the system because I was supposed to have all these other pieces in place that I didn't get. And at first, it was very frustrating because I felt like I was going back and forth solving these issues for this next person in the chance. And I'd come back and they said, well, now you need this. And I need this. And I'm like, wait, that's a waste of my time. I'm backtracking back and forth. So I understood what the system was, and it made me more efficient.
Right.
And is that a fair thing to say when you have systems, it makes your business more efficient?
Oh, always. Always. When I automated time entry for my business, we cut 89% of the labor for time entry just with that one change.
89%. That's
Hmm.
amazing.
Yeah. 89% of the time it took to enter time, we eliminated by automating that process. So, I'm a numbers person. I'm always looking at continuous process improvement and how can I automate things to make them more efficient. The more efficient you are, the better service you can provide, the more value the client sees in you. Perception of value is everything in a business. And you can't tell somebody that you're a good company. You have to demonstrate that you're a good company, because if they don't see it, it doesn't exist. I teach this a lot, the what's in it for me from the client's perspective. Having systems is critical for that, because these days it is expected, it is no longer an order winner to be efficient. You're expected to be efficient. There's order winners and order qualifiers. A qualifier says you have to be this before I even will talk to you. An order winner is what sets you apart from other like companies. Why I should go to McDonald's instead of Five Guys, or something like that. What's different between here and here that is going to win my business? So an order qualifier in 2026 is, how efficient are you? How many systems do you have in place? How do you track data so I can trust you? Right? Whether they say it out loud or not, they're looking for that. It used to be, if you had a system, then you won the business, because most people don't have them. And in my industry, that's still true, because a lot of the small businesses that start lifestyle management companies don't have systems. So it's still true. But but for all businesses, like if you're retail and you don't have a point of sale system,
Mm.
if you're still writing receipts out by hand and pushing buttons on a cash register and not scanning a barcode, you know what I mean? And your inventory is not automatically replenished because the point of sale said, oh, I used up this, so now I've got to buy more. Automatically. We used to do that manually.
Yeah.
We used to go and have to do a physical inventory and say, oh, what are we low on? What do we have to buy?
I hated the end of the month when you had to do
Yeah.
that.
Where did you work in where you had to do that?
Well, in the golf industry, we did that all the time, like
Oh,
at Mission Hills Country Club or La Quinta Resort and PGA West with 9 courses that we took care of in 5 clubhouses. We had tens of millions of dollars worth of inventory that we had to account for.
Yeah.
And, there was some long nights that you had to do that with.
So they're counting
That
everything.
that was before that, right? We did have electric cash registers, but they weren't tied to the inventory. They didn't automatically update it. So yeah.
Well, that's the point of sale part of point of sale, is that it calculates. I remember when they put those in grocery stores and they implemented those barcodes, right? That was because the data that the register was collecting was feeding back to the inventory system saying, oh, you sold all the cream cheese, you need to replenish this. And most of those companies have min-max, probably just like the golf industry. If I get down to 5,000 golf balls, I better order some more because of the lead time is X and I need them here by Y. So I need to order them. I used to teach that at Cal State Northridge, inventory management. And one of the things is, you treat it like we do it every day. People don't realize we all do it, right? You go to the refrigerator and you look in there and see how much butter and eggs you have and how much milk. And okay, I'm not going to go to the grocery store till a week from now. I need this much to get me through a week, right? So I'm going to go buy some and then I'll be good. That's inventory management in a nutshell. Super easy. Point of sale transactions automated all of that look in the refrigerator thing. You don't have to do that anymore. And so whether you're selling time like we do or you're selling widgets, you have to have some kind of system in order to track what you're doing.
So let's talk about this, because as you talk about operations, there's a lot of moving parts in operation. So would a hiring or firing or training of employees need a system? And is that
absolutely.
part of operations?
Yeah. And you need procedures also. We've talked a lot about procedures over the podcast because it is so integral to the success or failure of your business. You cannot grow. If you want to build a business and you want to hire people to help you, you have to have a system and procedures, period. Because without I had this conversation yesterday in my staff meeting. Without procedures, you cannot ensure that people are doing work the way they should. People have good intentions. They want to do well, but if they're not educated about what your expectations are and how they're supposed to do something, they're going to do it however they want to do it. And that may not represent your brand properly.
Right.
So by having a system, training is easier. This goes here and this goes here and this goes here. Right. But you don't want monkeys. You want them to think. So you have to educate people what the input and output of their data is so that they can make a good decision. And likewise with procedures, if you give people specific procedures to go with that system, then they know exactly how to enter the data and when to plan for something and when to go, how to say something. Right. So there's an awful lot of control that needs to be implemented if you want to maintain perception of value with your client and keep your business growing to the point where you personally can work on your business and not in it. Like on your business means I implement the system, I do the training, I create the procedures. That's working on my business, right? In my business is I'm running the errands, I'm doing home checks, I'm the one talking to the client. That is not the best use of my time. Important, absolutely important. That's why I have people to do it, but not the best use of my time. Just like you finally have come to that conclusion. I know after some pain that you're better off to outsource a lot of what you do. A lot more of what you do than you used to. You were still trying to do a lot of editing. You were still on site to do a lot of filming. You're still on site to, you're still handling the management of data and all of that. And you don't have to. You have great people that help you to do that. And so, and that's your system, right? You have a system where you've outsourced a lot of the basic tasks to others, but you've created procedures for them so they know what you expect and how you want them to do it. And that does make training easier, right?
Yeah, I think about your story of when you went away, and or not even when you went away, but when you had a situation. I think it's maybe not 3 or 4 years ago. We've known each other for a long time, so let's just say 3 years ago. It may not be accurate, but use it as an example. And you had some turnover, and because you have systems in place, policies and procedures, your end customer didn't notice any difference because the
Right.
quality of the output still remained at your brand expectations.
Yeah.
Because
And
it didn't matter if Jeff did it, or Joe, or Amy, or whomever, because we had a follow, we were able to follow our systems. And that's the cool thing, that you, as the business owner, if you have those systems in place and policies and procedures, did you find yourself being overwhelmed because you had new employees, or because you had those in place? You know, if they followed it, the outcome was predictable.
yeah, no to overwhelm. Yes, the output is predictable. In fact, it's an order winner for me because when I meet with a potential new client, I tell them I have written policies and procedures for everything we do. We have a proprietary software system. Everybody operates exactly the same. You will not notice any difference in what goes on at your home other than the name on the bottom of the report.
Mm.
Right? That's an order winner because that level of consistency and that continuity of quality does not exist in the world today for the most part. There are people, there are exceptions, of course, but I can't tell you how many times clients have told me how much that means to them that we're able to have that level of accuracy. And we maintain that data in perpetuity. So people know they can go back and look at things. As long as they're a client, they can go back and look at whatever we did and it's all there.
Yeah.
And I was explaining to my employees yesterday, I said, you guys may not be aware of it, but I see everything you do because every time you make a transaction, I get a notification.
Yeah.
And if I see that you are all of a sudden doing a ton of notifications at once, that tells me that you haven't been looking at this and you're catching up. But if I see consistent data being processed every day, I know that you're on it and that you're looking at all of your stuff and making sure everything is getting done properly. And they all kind of looked at me, and I know they know that, but they kind of looked at me in shock yesterday because I guess they didn't recall,
The friendly
which is
reminder.
why we have company meetings, that I can see everything they do. Right. So whether it's a home check, I get a notification, or it's a task update, I get a notification, or a schedule. I see all of that. And I don't necessarily read it all, right? Because I manage by exception, but I can tell by the name of who's coming through and what they're doing, whether or not they're catching up or whether or not they're working every day.
Mm.
And
So when we think about this, we're talking about being inside the business, but there's another piece of this as well. And I spoke about this yesterday. Is our customers tend to um, mirror what we do. In other words, your high level of consistency and professionalism, they see that, and what do they tend to do? They probably talk to other people that they are around, which are probably your ideal customer persona, and they brag about the things that you do every day as this is the way we operate our business.
that's true. That
And
is
and I
true.
I think that's a huge takeaway for a small business owner who maybe listen to this and say, well, how important is it for me to have these? Because I'm still delivering a product, I'm still delivering the service. But wait a second. We as the customers notice, and I'll give you a perfect example. As I said, we were on vacation, and I could see we went to a Michelin star restaurant, and I was not impressed. It
Hmm.
was obvious that it wasn't their systems and procedures were not as tight as, I'm going to say, as Executive Aaron's, because there were some inconsistencies. And therefore, and the reason I said that is because two of us had similar meals and the quality was different between the
Oh,
two meals.
really?
I'm like, well, wait a second. Who's checking that quality before it even leaves the kitchen?
Right.
Did the chef even look at this? Did any? And so it makes me, now I'm never going to say the name of the restaurant, but it was it was kind of going to be the highlight to start our trip that we went on. And it was like, And you know what it made me do is it made me be more critical of every restaurant we went to.
Oh, that's too bad.
And it's too bad. That's on me, but that's what that does versus, hey, I have such a great experience with executive errands that anybody else is probably going to fall short of it, or that's the new normal, right? That's the normal.
Right.
This is what things should be. And so, yeah, I don't want you to just think of it, hey, this is an internal thing, because it will shine outside as well. When you're doing things really, really well, people notice and they'll brag about you. We see them in reviews, right?
Yeah, and they do, and we appreciate that. I get when I go to events, whether it's a chamber mixer or an expo or just some meeting like BNI or whatever, people are always telling me they love the newsletter or I had a lady call me not that long ago. This really surprised me because I hadn't talked to her in 5 years. She talked to me 5 years ago. She was thinking about being a client. She didn't end up being a client, but she said to me that she asked her friends at the time who to go to for what we do. And they said to go to us. This was like 10 years ago, to go to us because we were in it for the long haul. Now, like I do out here in the desert, there's a lot of fly by night companies, right? Because we're a captive. For those of you who don't know, the Coachella Valley is a captive area. It is 9 cities long, and there's sand all the way around it. And so we're sort of this oasis in the middle of nowhere because we live in the desert. It's the Palm Springs area. That's most familiar to most people. So that we get a lot of fly-by-night vendors who come in, see that it's captive, think, oh, I'm going to start a business. They have bad customer service. They're in and out and gone in 6 months or a year. We see, how much do we see that all the time?
Right? I see a lot in my industry in the marketing and agencies. Like somebody say, have you heard of X, Y, and Z? I have no idea who that is. Because they just hung up a shingle yesterday, right? And 6 months from now, they may be gone. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. And so I did a whole newsletter about that fact that we are in it for the long haul because we haven't been in business for 20 years. And in the reason, because out here it's very fickle. I don't know how it is in whoever's watching, how it is in their geographic area, but here the community is very fickle with their loyalty. If you get a bad reputation, you're done. I mean, there's no grace out here. And so the fact that we've been in business for 20 years says a lot. And I know that we're in business that long because we have systems and procedures, because we don't vary in our quality. It's always the same.
Well, let's talk about that for just a second. I want to peel back a layer here. Let's just say, for instance, and again, the goal is not to overwhelm you with like, oh, I got to get all these systems in place.
No.
It doesn't happen automatically. And you've heard me say this before. If you're not new to this, I said, there's this curse of knowledge that when you get down the road a while, you just assume people know this stuff. And we make what is so important unimportant. And so I want to ask you, if I'm a new business owner, I'm thinking, okay, how do I even create a system? Is it through observation? Do I copy something that's already out there? What would you recommend that a new person out there or somebody who doesn't have a system in place do when we're talking about operations and maybe even just a hiring and training piece?
Well, it's a really good question, because in this day of instant apps, there are so many apps that claim to do so many things. And in my 5-day challenges I do for people, I hear all the time, that's one of my questions on our fact finding is, how many apps are you using and what are they for? Because so many people have so many applications. And if you add up the cost of all of those, it can be quite costly because nothing's for free. They say, oh, this one's $29, but that one's $19, but that one's $49. And then pretty soon you got $300 or $400 a month just in systems that you're trying to, and they're all piecemeal, right? They're all disparate systems. They're not integrated. You're having to do redundant data. They might have overlap. So that question is a very good question. And in our case, we only use two things to run executive errands. And we're a 7-figure company, been in business for 20 years, and we use two things. One is our financial accounting system, which we have, and one is our operations data collection system that we created. That's it. The calendar's in there, all my data is in there, all my client data, everything we need is in that system. So my employee, and they have a dashboard, it's all designed by workflow, so they know exactly what they're supposed to do. When my employees log in, they see a dashboard of what their tasks are on an exception basis, what's past due. That doesn't mean they don't look at everything to do, but for sure they have to get on those past due items, right? So if you're a brand new business owner, you want to look and see, what do I need to be efficient in my business? If you're retail, you need a point of sale system, period. Right. And you have, because it will automate your inventory control. It will automate your replenishment system for that inventory. It will allow you to track all your financial data. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to a point of sale system. Does it track labor? I don't know, as I'm not that familiar with point of sale. I don't think so. But your accounting system can. So still you're at two systems. Maybe you need a calendar. We have a calendar in our system, but maybe you need one. How do you track all of your people that are all over the world that do work for you? How do you track their time and their productivity, for example?
Yeah, our system we use is we use a platform called Upwork, and Upwork. I can look at each individual person. I can track their keystrokes on their computer. I can see what websites they're going to. I can see how long they've stayed on that website. I can now lay that against, hey, what have we actually tasked them to do? Are they actually doing that? And they're aware of that. So it's just a check and balance, but it is a system. And then once a week they get paid. And it's been incredibly effective and efficient for me.
Yeah. See, that would not work for what we do because we're in a completely different business. But one of the things that you want to look at is how much redundant data entry is required for me to use this system. We always talk about best fit, right? I used to do in aerospace, I used to do software system best fit analysis. We would do demos with the companies that were offering software, knowing what the needs of the company was, the ones that I was working as a consultant, right? And then we would determine what the best fit was, because no software generally is 100% of what you need. There's always going to be some area that you try not to customize, because then it's hard to take advantage of upgrades. So you don't want to customize yourself into a corner, but you want to find something that fits your company the best without having to make any changes. And that might be that you need to alter your procedure or your process to what the system prefers, right? We always talk about the skin of cat, right? 1,000 ways to skin a cat, but the cat needs to be naked at the end. It don't matter how you get there, So, or we usually used to be more kind, bake a cake. There's 1,000 ways to bake a cake, but you want a good, delicious cake at the end. So when you're looking at process and a software system, how much of it fits your existing process, but how much of it can you, wow, I can hear that. Is that your side?
Yeah, I even turned off the mic and you could still hear it. Geez, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much do you need to modify your process to fit in that system? And there's where you get the biggest resistance. I used to go in to do these business analysis for companies, and I still, even today, doing my 5-day challenge for people, the amount of resistance is incredible because people don't like change. This is the way we've always done it. Well, I don't care how you've always done it. What's the most efficient way? But so you don't want redundant data entry, right? If you have to put the same data in week after week after week, that system is not a best fit for you. Then you want to know, where can I change my process to better use the system? Because as long as I get the result I want, I don't care how I get there. I shouldn't care, right? And so then it is, okay, now I take that combination of, here's a product. I can modify my system for this. The system in the application works the way it does. That's fine. I can live with that. I don't have to do a lot of redundant data entry. How does it match with my workflow? How do I modify my workflow? And then do I get the output that I want? And that's what we did with Essential Elements, which is my software system that I license out to other companies, like other lifestyle management companies, is we overhauled it last year to realign it into workflows. So it's much easier to learn. The menus are much easier to absorb and to find what you want because they're in logical silos of activity. And so these are things that when you're looking for a system for your business, and I do this all the time, is help companies decide what the best solution is for their company, for their business, is you need a demo, and then you need to determine, again, how redundant is it? What redundant data entry is there, which you don't want? And then how can I modify my own processes to work within the framework of this solution? And then you have a winning combination.
Well, I think that I love the whole idea about understanding the right software and making it more efficient. I'm going to break it down even just at a basic level. Let's say, for instance, if I'm a 3 or 4 person business, if I said, hey, make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I don't give them directions, there's a chance that each one of us are going to do it differently.
For sure.
Some people are going to put peanut butter on both sides. Some people are going to put peanut butter on one side and put the jelly on the other side. Some people are going to toast their bread. And what that all means is each one comes out as a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but it's inconsistent, right? Its quality is inconsistent.
And what kind of jelly, and crunchy or smooth? Yeah,
exactly. And so I think when I think about this, I remember the first time where I stepped away from doing live stream for one of our churches that we do, and I built the process and procedures for that next person. And it was a little bit of work, but it made me stop and think, just like if I said, hey, tell me how to tie a tie. Well, we do it almost instinctively. That's the curse of knowledge. And we have to stop and say, wait a minute. If I were teaching a bright 7-year-old how to do this, what are these steps? What's step 1? Not step 10, because I don't know the first 9. And that's that breaking it down. Like, okay, you put peanut butter and jelly on there and put it together. No. That's the curse of knowledge, because I've never done it before. That's kind of what I think will start reducing that overwhelm. If I'm saying, I don't even have any software, I don't have any apps, where do I start? Would it be observing the work that you are doing and saying, what are the steps to that? And then documenting it and then training from that? Because you got to start somewhere. I can't start out with the software system and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I need to duplicate myself, and the way I duplicate myself is to create policies and procedures that I can now hand off to other people. No, like you've done, you're not the person who goes out and cleans the houses and does the errands, because you've created these systems. How did you create those to begin with? Did you just dream them up and say, let's go?
No, kind of.
Because
I mean, I'm sorry, but my brain is software design. I mean, I can look at software and figure out how it hangs together, which is a very unique quality. I'm sorry to say that if it sounds braggarty, but that I was in business for like, I don't know, 6-8 months when somebody said to me 20 years ago, and this was in 2006, so 1986 maybe, 20 years ago, somebody tried to start a company like yours, and it's a fantastic idea for this area in particular. However, the amount of data that's required, the admin associated with this kind of a business, is so overwhelming that nobody can manage it. So I said, okay, well, I can. So then I started immediately designing software for it. And I designed everything we use for executive errands, but I didn't program it because I'm not a programmer. I can tell you that I challenged the programmer quite a bit outside his comfort zone, because the things I asked him to do were not well known in those days as ways to do stuff. There wasn't the understanding of coding at the time. You got to remember this is 20 years ago. So it's, things have changed so much in 20 years, right? So, I mean, I don't think they even had like Visual Basic and stuff then. I'm not even sure what they were doing at the time. But I started right away, and it was just a little bit, I need to track this. And so the initial version of our software was very small. And along with that, I wrote the procedures. But if you don't have that ability to design your own software, and most people don't, then the recommendation would be to identify how you go about running your business. And from that, I can tell you what we can automate and what we can do to make it, to create that workflow and make it more efficient for you. And then we can identify apps that maybe can do that for you. Most people are pretty good at finding apps. I mean, there was a situation once where I needed to track tasks, right? I needed a to-do list, and it didn't exist in my software at that time. And so I went out and got an app to do that. And I used it for about a year. And then I looked at it one day and I said, the logic of this is really simple. And I took the logic and I put it in my own system. It is the same logic. I mean, maybe it's not, maybe it's different because I'm not privy to their code, but from a user perspective is identical. There's a difference between what the user sees and what's in the background.
Sure.
So I then implemented that into my system so I could keep track of to-do lists, because to-do list is the kiss of death if you let stuff fall through the cracks in my business.
So right? Are you saying then the real advanced message is no matter where you're at, you should try to find some software that automates your business that fits what you're doing
as much as you can. And then later, you're going to pick different apps to do different things because there's so many of them now. And just trying to figure out what's available is overwhelming, right? But once you get a few, then you can come and get some coaching and a business assessment like we do in our 5-day challenge. And we can help you combine those or find you a suitable replacement so that you can be more efficient, because efficiency is everything. You and I talk a lot about what people want these days in society, right? They want an experience more than anything, right? And if you're a business owner, you need to create an experience that makes people happy, or that they appreciate, or that they see value in. And part of the way you do that is to be friendly and enthusiastic and efficient. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
I agree.
I know you're busy there, but my phone's having a heyday over here.
Yeah, it's busy.
I should turn it off. So again, we come back to perception of value. And if you're a client walking into a resale store, let me give you a better example. I still have vendors who take me a picture of a receipt book and send it to me for an invoice. Mm-hmm. Versus I have vendors who have a system that emails me an actual invoice for work.
Can I jump in here for just a second?
Sure.
Doesn't it mean that both businesses have a system?
No.
One is just way more efficient than the other. In other words,
okay,
this guy or gal has a system of saying, hey, I'm going to take a picture and send it to Leslie. That's my system.
That's not a good system in 2026.
It is a system, though. It's just
in my system-based mind, though, I think that the person is still taking pictures of, my perception of somebody who's taking pictures of a receipt book is they do not have the business understanding to make their business a real business. Because in this day and age, you need email, I still get stuff by fax. And I only have an electronic fax, so it comes in as a PDF so I can deal with it, but I'm still getting faxes. You should not be getting faxes in 2026. That's passé, gone, but there's still people that don't have email or don't understand how to use attachments. It's shocking. Or how to send a proper quote for something. You work in an industry of technology. I work in an industry of service. Even though yours is a service-based business also, your primary focus is AI generation and technology. And mine is all service, but I got to track the data. So when I deal with a company that doesn't have even the most rudimentary ability to send me a proper invoice, my perception of that company is that they're a lesser quality vendor than another one that can, even when the products are the same and maybe the work is better from the one that doesn't do that. And so one would argue, well, what is if they do the better quality job, can't you overlook that? Yeah, I can. I do. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, they don't understand business very well. And they're probably losing money. I can't tell you how many people don't ever invoice me for jobs we've done.
Well, wait a second. Let's back up for a second, because I think that's what this conversation is. This is who this conversation is for. It's not for somebody who's already way down the road. It's for the people who are sending invoices by taking a picture of it and saying, wait a minute, there's a better way.
Yeah.
So as I said, and I'm going to stick to it, is they do have a system. It's just a very poor system. It is a system. It's not a better system. And so I think that's the opportunity of saying, hey, these are some tools that maybe, let's face it, maybe they are in an industry where they work with their hands, they make it, get it done. Let's use it, and not all plumbers. I'm just say a plumber. And it is one of these guys who does what they do. And at the end of the day, sending an invoice for them is part of their end of the day activity. That's their system. And what you could do is you could say, let's take a look at your business and we can help you automate that type of thing that will make you a better business. You'll still get to do what you love to do, fixing leaks and plumbing and that kind of stuff. But we can make you more efficient. We can appear to your customers as a higher level business because of systems.
Yeah, for sure. And you're absolutely right. I'm probably a little bit on the negative side when it comes to that, simply because I know so much about business. And to me, it's so inefficient to have to take a picture and then send a fax or do it manually. To me, that's doing it manually.
But could that be this guy who used to, like my former lawn care people, they would have this paper, put it in an envelope and mail it to me, right? Well, maybe they've advanced and said, well, what if I just take a picture and send it? In their mind, they have advanced. They've gotten better at it. And now, can they track that? Sure, it's on my phone. I had to take a picture of it. So there is some trackability. No, it's not Leslie level, but gosh, couldn't that be the ideal customer that actually able to say, we can help you with some better systems to make your life better? To say, as you were saying at the very beginning, when you automated your timekeeping, it saved you 89%.
Yeah.
Well, wow, what if you did the same thing? Those are the people, to me, and again, I'm not trying to be, point counterpoint here, but I'm thinking those are the people who
Isn't that the point of a podcast?
Yeah, this is what you really need to be talking to and saying, okay, I realize you have a system. There are better ways to do things.
Yeah, and that you're absolutely right. I don't mean to demean anybody. I just was trying to give an example of a poor system versus a better system. And so I was trying to say what you were trying to say, but in a very bad way. So I apologize for that. But, in this day and age, it seems difficult for me to understand how somebody's still so far behind. But I shouldn't feel that way, because a lot of people have no business experience whatsoever. They have a good idea or a good skill, or they're great at making cupcakes, or whatever it is they do, they're really good at it. I was trying to help my sister as an example. She makes jewelry, and it's beautiful jewelry, beautiful. And she has tons and tons of inventory because she makes it all the time. And she wants to supplement her income. So I said, why don't you sell it? And she goes, it's too overwhelming to try to figure out how to do that. I said, okay, would it help you if I gave you step-by-step instructions? And she said, yes. So I would say, okay, sign up for this app and then do this. And then after that part, I would say, and then do this. And we were getting her down there, but then she got like overwhelmed already and stopped doing it. So, even I can't even help my own family sometimes. But I'm just saying that I can give you step by step an action plan that will get you where you need to be if you want to get there,
Well, I think
right?
that's what I was trying to pull out of you
Oh, thank you.
is just
Good
the
job.
real basic step by step. Give me step one, step two. Step one may not be, hey, I need to sign up for software. It
Right.
may be, I need to see what I'm currently doing and is it working? Yes. Is it working at its best? No, I'm still sending faxes. We don't do that in 2025.
Well,
This is a better way, right?
that's exactly what I do in the 5-day challenge.
Oh,
We do
okay.
yeah, exactly. I do a fact finding mission. How are you doing it today? What do your numbers look like today? What apps are you using? What is your biggest challenge in your business? You know, where do you feel the bottlenecks are? All those kinds of questions that then help me identify where those opportunities are to improve. So that's exactly what we do in the 5-day challenge. And it's one on one. I say this every time we talk about it. It's one on one. It's not a group of people where I'm generically helping people. I am helping that person for their business. Uh,
Invaluable.
yeah, it is. And it's so much fun for me because, when I taught at the college, and you have a concept and you explain it to somebody in a way that the light goes on in their eyes. You're teaching inventory management. It's a very boring topic, right? But when you can put it into like the refrigerator example, like I got to feed my cat and I know how much the cat eats and I look in the refrigerator and this is how much food I have. So when am I going next? Okay, so this is how much I need. That's exactly inventory management. And when you explain it to somebody in that term where they can understand it and the light goes on in their eyes, it is so rewarding to me. So in the 5-day challenge, when I identify or bring to their consciousness an area where they could make it better, or they didn't see something because it's a forest and the trees situation, it is so gratifying to be able to help somebody at that level. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
you're 100% correct, and maybe I didn't say it right to begin with, but that is the exactly what we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do, is help people at the very basic level where they are. And I learned a lot from that, doing that. I realized some of these people I'm dealing with have been in business 10 years, right? And I've been marketing my software to people for I think since 2018, so almost 10 years, right? And it's the full system like I use today. It's all the bells and whistles. It's like buying the high-end Miele dishwasher. It's got all the bells and whistles on it when they really only need this much. So what I did was I broke my system into versions so that they could have what they needed at an affordable price for the place they are in their business today.
Brilliant.
Right. And so that's been huge because the clients that get it love it. They just go, oh my God, this is so much easier. And they can then have the automation they need and the business process they need. And we can do that with any industry, but lifestyle management is my current closest one. Oh, excuse me.
I think
I need an app to keep me awake. Go ahead.
I think we're all guilty of this, and this is not this. I'm going to say something and share something on screen. It's not designed for to be a negative. It's an awareness,
Right.
and it's something that said to me. It says, "When we are the hammer, everything looks like the nail."
Right.
And so, for you, because you bring such expertise and understanding of systems and software, the answer is your expertise and software,
Right.
because everything looks like a nail that
Right.
can solve. And I'm not saying it can't.
Right.
And for me, let's say, for instance, every time I walk into a room, I want to talk about content marketing because that's what I've done. That it will solve that problem. Where really, what I need to understand is the first thing you need to do is something totally different. And so, for me, I've tried to be, and I know you're the same way. I've tried to be, and I think you've gotten it in the 5-day challenges, meeting them where they are
That's
and
right.
finding out does my solution, is it a solution or is it overwhelm?
Or do you have a different solution? That's the thing. I have so many products out there with the learning program and the 5-day challenge and the offer documents and all these different things that I do in my software. But what's funny is that when you do these 5-day challenges, you realize that sometimes people need more consulting. Some people need a software version. Some people need training. And so the educational thing might be helping them. In fact, one of them, we agreed to do additional consulting over a 6-month period. And she came back to me and she said, I want to apply that. She'd already paid the fees for it. She goes, I want to apply that to the software. I've decided that as much as I love talking to you, I need to automate what I have in front of me. And so that's what we did is we set her up on a database. And so she is like, we did some additional training this morning. She's just over the moon about it because it has automated all her workflows so that it makes her life so much easier, and that's what you want.
Well, when we meet people, and I recognized this when I was instructing in golf, I broke it down and understood and read about the stages of learning. And the first stage is ignorance. And it's because they don't know what they don't
know. That's right.
So that's why the expert, in your case, you're the expert, is to meet them and understand where they are. And like you said, the 5-day challenge is perfect because you're not walking in there trying to sell them anything. You're gathering data to help them get to the next level wherever they're at. Right?
That's right. That's right.
That's a lot of fun.
It is fun. Like I say, I always say it's my heart. I enjoy it. How many times have I called you after a 5-day class and I'm like ecstatic and over the moon because it is so much fun. Again, when something is brought to somebody's consciousness, they always make it better or make the adjustments that they need to make. Right. And so just seeing that, because we do it all on Zoom. So seeing that they get a concept or they realize that they're the bottleneck or they realize that they've been cutting themselves short on time because they aren't charging enough, right, for what they're doing. All of those things are so rewarding to me because they're benefiting. It isn't about me at that point at all. The whole 5-day challenge is not about me. It's about how I can make their life clearer and a better understanding and more efficient and help them identify where their opportunities are so they can do better. That's the whole thing.
Here's a quick little example of what I think that you offer somebody. While we were in Cabo on vacation, we were at a great resort right on the ocean. And it was the time of year when the whales are heading south, right? And they're heading up the Sea of Cortez. And so we could stand on there, we could see the whales jumping and breaching and whatnot. But I think the difference is like when we use, but like this time we took binoculars. We took binoculars. All of a sudden it brought it into such clarity and view. And I could see it so much better. To me, I think you are a pair of binoculars. You bring something that looks like they can kind of see it as vague. And you bring it into their present, and it's such a much more rewarding opportunity because you're already out in the future, and you brought it and showed them what they can learn. And again, they didn't know what they didn't know, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, it's great. So I'm going to call you binoculars.
What's funny is that I reframe people's thought process quite often. I'll say, let's reframe that. What if you looked at it like this? And I had several people recently. It's funny how this is cyclical, that runs in you get a bunch of the same thing quite often. And I had a couple of people who are marketing to realtors these days who were trying to get realtors to hire them for their services. And I said, no, that's not, let me offer you this. What if you partnered with the realtor to expand their service offering so that you could take on their buyers and sellers and help them either extend their level of customer service beyond the close of escrow or prep that house for curb appeal, clean up the yard, whatever. And the homeowner pays you, but you're working with the realtor to make their experience for their clients better. And they're like, oh, okay. because most realtors, they never know when their next paycheck is coming, right? It all depends on how their listings go and how the economy is and all that. And so they're not really enthusiastic about spending their own money for things. And I don't blame them because they don't know when they're getting paid. But if you can help them make their service better, then it's a win for them. And that's a win for you. Right. And so once I explain that to somebody, they're all over it. They start teaching it, they start approaching their marketing to realtors in a completely different way, and they're being successful.
Absolutely.
That's what's fun. Yeah, it's what's fun.
Well, I want to point to those people who might just be listening instead of watching on the screen. We've got Leslie's 5-Day Freedom Challenge link up there, and that's 5 days with Leslie. It's one-on-one. As she said, it's not a group session. It's an opportunity for her to meet you where you are to help you be exposed. Like I said, putting on the binoculars and seeing into the future and saying, oh, these are things I can do now. I don't have to wait 10 years because we can leapfrog. It's one of the things that we talk about is success loves speed. It doesn't have to, it's like saying, hey, I want to make $1 million in my life. Well, do you really want to make $25,000 for 40 years? Or do you want to make $1 million this year? Which one are you? That's on the screen. ConciergeBusinessSolutions.com, the 5-Day Freedom Challenge. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jeff Harrison, and I own a company called Swing Point Media. We're just happy to be alive and making things happen for local businesses. You joined us on the Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted podcast, along with my very smart, wickedly smart friend, Leslie Spohr. Leslie, any last thoughts before we wrap up today?
No, I love doing this podcast together. We have so much fun, and you give me such a nice platform. Thank you for that.
You bet. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.